Coming up on Tech News Today, is Facebook slowing or growing? Did Intel just screw up their future? And EA, did it knife Nintendo in the back? So many questions. We'll answer them next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Thursday, May 2nd, 2013. Tech News Today is brought to you by Tonks Coffee. Tonks offers a bi-weekly subscription. Tonks sources their beans directly from the growers. They're roasted and shipped within 24 hours, giving you the freshest coffee beans in the world. For a free sample, visit tonks.org/TNT. That's TONX.org/TNT. And by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your used gadgets. Find out what your used Samsung Galaxy, iPhone, and other smartphones are worth at Gazelle.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Ayaz Akhtar.
And I'm Alex Gumpel.
And Alex Gumpel is with us for only 2 more days, Jason.
No.
Well,
Monday. We'll be happy to see Jason back.
Yay.
Listen, Alex, he's been doing a great job. Let's keep you up to date on the tech news in the world, starting with the top 10 stories of the day in the news feeds. Facebook reported earnings Wednesday. The good news, revenue jumped 38% year over year, beating expectations. The bad news, earnings per share were flat at 12 cents, missing expectations of 13 cents a share. Monthly active users rose 23% from last year, and mobile use rose 54%. Facebook's making money off that mobile rise, too. Ad revenue from mobile jumped 30% of the total from 23% of the total last quarter.
Intel has announced that Brian Krzanich will replace Paul Otellini as CEO 6 months after Otellini announced he would retire after almost 40 years at the company. Krzanich, who previously served as Intel's COO and executive vice president, will start his new role on May 16th. Intel's board also elected Renee James to become its new president. Her duties start the same day.
Intel also just announced information about the 4th generation of its core processors, otherwise known as Haswell. There'll be a new line of core processors featuring Intel's new Iris graphics. Intel claims that with Iris, you'll see a 2x 3D performance improvement compared to Ivy Bridge, and it should be able to handle 4K output. Iris will join Intel's HD graphics as a new tier of graphics chips.
Integrated graphics. Right. ESEA, the esports company, has discovered its software was being used to mine bitcoins for an alleged rogue employee. ESEA apparently had considered adding Bitcoin mining to its software, but decided against it on April 12th. The next day, code showed up in its software somehow. Anyway, gamers with their fancy gaming rigs were unwittingly mining $3,713.55 worth of bitcoins for someone. ESEA has apologized and promised to donate the bitcoins to the American Cancer Society along with a matching amount of cash.
Remember last year when YouTube had a big fancy advertisers event in an effort to get marketers to put their dollars into YouTube videos? Well, last night YouTube started that up again, but instead of trying to convince ad buyers that YouTube stuff is just as good as anything you'll see on TV, YouTube is now saying the stuff people watch on YouTube is better than TV because it's on YouTube. What does that mean? Well, not much except 1 billion viewers per month.
Omaha, Nebraska is getting Gigabit internet, but it's not from Google. CenturyLink, the 3rd largest telecom company in the U.S., announced it will wire 48,000 businesses and homes in Omaha by October. A pilot service that will reach 10,000 subscribers will start this Monday. The Lightspeed broadband package will cost $80 if it's part of a bundle, or $150 per month if you get it as a standalone service.
Wow, that is a big price difference there. IDC reports 49.2 million tablets shipped during the first quarter of 2013. That's up 142% from the same time last year. Apple's share of the market fell from 58.2% to 39.6%. They're still number one. Samsung's number two. They jumped from 11.3% of the market to 17.9%. Asus Amazon, and Microsoft rounded out the top 5. Now, Microsoft may add another tablet to the stack coming up this summer. Digitimes reporting that 7 and 9-inch second-generation Microsoft Surface tablets would be announced at the Microsoft Build conference. That conference starts June 26th.
Facebook launched two-factor authentication almost 2 years ago, but this week security gets stronger yet. After a test phase in 2011, Facebook is now launching Trusted Circles across the world, a way to recover access to your account through friends that you trust. So the way it works is you select between 3 and 5 friends to add to your trusted contacts list. Now, if your account gets compromised or you forget your password, these friends can help by supplying security codes. So really choose them wisely.
You may not have known Facebook allowed videos of decapitations on its website, but it did, and now it doesn't, but it might still do it again. A 1-minute video of a woman being beheaded by a masked man was uploaded to the site last week, drawing attention to the issue. Facebook initially allowed the video because it was being used to condemn the practice, and the company believed people had a right to depict the world in which they lived. The BBC reports Facebook will now remove instances of these videos while they evaluate that policy.
In much lighter news, according to Net Applications, more people use Windows Vista than use Windows 8. While Vista is losing market share, it still has 4.75% of the market. Windows 8 is on a slow rise since its release. It now has 3.8% of the desktop operating system market in April. Windows 7 is still the top dog with 44.72% of computers.
This episode of Tech News Today brought to you by Tonks Coffee. Sarah Lane.
Are you familiar with Tonks, Tom? Well, you might be because I told everybody about it yesterday, but this is really cool. So if you are the kind of person who, like me, goes to a coffee shop regularly and spends kind of a lot of money because you feel that you deserve the best coffee that there is to buy, Tonks is actually a really great solution for you because not only will you save money, but you don't actually have to leave your home. Tonks is a bi-weekly coffee delivery service, but it's not just, oh, coffee, that's fun, you get it delivered to your house. It's really good coffee, extraordinary coffee. And the reason is not just because the beans are good, but because it's shipped within 24 hours of roasting. That's very, very important. Homebrewed coffee can be just as good as really fancy, expensive baristas in suspenders coffee. You guys know what I mean. You don't want pre-ground coffee. You want great coffee that doesn't really have anything to do with fancy gadgets. You can use your own coffee maker. It all starts with good coffee, and that's what Tonks provides. They offer plenty of help on brewing methods and equipment. They source directly from growers because of their very extensive relationships. They can basically go to the ends of the earth to find these great coffees and buy the beans when they're at their peak. All this stuff is sort of cyclical, you know. And Tonks cares about the experience of their customers, and they're available to help with any brewing questions, and they're ready to offer tips and advice. Every 2 weeks, you can get a new batch of incredible beans roasted to perfection. Tonks is a subscription service, and they're offering a free sample to TNT viewers and listeners. If you're interested, go to tonks.org/TNT. That's TONX.org/TNT to get some for yourself, or send it to somebody you know that deserves really good coffee. And thanks to Tonks for supporting this episode of Tech News Today.
Thank you, Tonks. And also, if you think biweekly, as it probably does literally mean twice a week, it's fortnightly for those of you who think that way.
Bi-monthly, I guess you could say.
Right. Let's welcome to the show our guest today, Mr. Mike Hurley, podcaster and producer at 5by5.tv. How's it going, Mike?
Very well, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for coming back on the show. Great to have you back.
Always a pleasure.
Let us start off by talking about Facebook, not necessarily so much about the earnings per se, but that percentage of monthly active users. Now, the way I mentioned it in the news fuse, it sounded like it wasn't a bad thing. What's the story on this?
Well, it's complicated. Yeah, Tom, as you mentioned, we talked about quite a few numbers. It's, Facebook's earnings after all.
It's complicated. I get it because it's Facebook.
Right. Always get it. Yeah. What's your emotion today? Feeling confused? So daily active users as a percent of monthly active users is a very important metric because it shows not only who's going to Facebook, but how engaged they are. And that number is rising. It's not rising quickly, but it is rising. So it's not falling and it's not static at about 60% of engagement compared to about 55% since Q1 of 2011. So again, not a huge rise, but a rise. Monthly active users are about 1.11 billion. Daily active users are hovering around 665 million. So there's quite a discrepancy between the two. But again, daily active users is tougher than monthly. The interesting thing about this is that the growth rate is slowing in the US and Europe, which has traditionally been the place where Facebook was investing most of its revenue efforts. And that's something that Facebook is going to have to address because biggest revenue markets are very important to Facebook. So you got the US, for example, not a lot of crazy growth because again, we've almost hit saturation point in the US where if people want to be on Facebook, they probably are already. But the percentage of Facebook's total ad revenue that came from mobile rose to 30%, which is up from 23% last quarter. That's globally. Mike, what do you make of these numbers? Does it seem like Facebook these numbers seem healthy and they'll figure out how to be able to boost revenue in other markets as well as their core markets?
I mean, Facebook's user base, that's a healthy number on its own. And I guess for me, it's just as time goes on, the numbers are going to start to increase less and less. I just feel like as the platform matures, they can't continue to have such massive growth every year. Like at some point, it needs to plateau. And the fact that it is still growing and it's not shrinking, that's a good thing, I guess.
As Sheryl Sandberg said yesterday on the earnings call that 3,800 developers had used app install ads. That's something that Facebook has rolled out recently to drive over 25 million installs, and that 40% of the top 100 iOS and Android app developers bought these ads in the last week of the first quarter. Mark Zuckerberg said, "We're starting to see real revenue from this." This is, of course, if I'm on my mobile phone, I'm going to see a suggested app to me because that was paid for. Is this the future of what we can expect more in the mobile version?
Yeah, the crazy thing was Facebook was not monetizing mobile at all for a long time, and now Facebook's doing this huge push with things like Facebook Home, Chat Heads, and all the refreshes of their iOS apps out there, and their feature phone applications that are available, offering free internet to people. Facebook, when it comes to getting themselves on basically in the hands of everybody, they're getting close to that. As Mike mentioned, there has to be a point where they have to plateau. When you have 1 billion monthly average users, that's a huge number. So there is a saturation point for the world. At some point, either everybody will be on Facebook or there'll still be a holdout in China until Facebook bends to that and other countries don't ban the site. So mobile is where Facebook is really ingraining themselves, that people get used to their phones and they're going to see these ads. And I just think mobile is going to be what Facebook's going to work on for the time to come.
Tom?
I want to know where Facebook's space exploration program is. I mean, they're going to run out of people on this planet eventually. And what's their growth plan for that?
Well, I think probably by next quarter, we'll start seeing more revenue coming in from Parse. That's Facebook's mobile development platform, which has already about 60,000 developers. They have a freemium model, but they also have paid versions. The cheapest one starts at about $200 per month. Times that by 60,000, and you're getting somewhere. Tom, do you think the mobile development platform is going to see Facebook bring in quite a bit of money?
Yeah, I got two problems with this whole story. One is I really wish in my naive mind that we would look at things as sustainable, not endless growth. But given that we're not going to change Wall Street overnight, I think they should also be looking at revenue for Facebook, not just monthly active users. It's sort of it's a cool thing that Facebook's been able to do this monthly active user growth for so long, but that doesn't mean that it's horrible if they plateau. What Wall Street probably wants to see is revenue growth, and mobile looks finally like it's turning the corner for Facebook. And we know that mobile is where all of the growth in usage of anything technology related is happening right now. So that had to happen. And I think they've made it happen. Don't you? I mean, it seems like Facebook is finally starting to figure that platform out.
It seems that way. I think there's, I'm sure, quite a few people mumbling and grumbling that they see more ads, especially in the mobile version than ever, particularly since more people are viewing Facebook on mobile than ever. I'm included in that number. I do see them quite often, but it's the way that it's got to be.
Let's talk about Intel's new CEO. He'll take over on May 16th. And his name is Krzanich. So get used to it, folks. We were talking before the show if we could call him like Coach K of Intel or something, but it's actually not that hard. Brian Krzanich succeeds Paul Otellini. He continues the tradition of Intel sort of naming the successor by making them COO, which they did in January 2012 for Krzanich, and then they take over as CEO. In fact, the last COO before Krzanich was Paul Otellini. The position just wasn't filled for a long time. Arik Hesseldahl pointed that thing out. It's the first CEO there hasn't been a CEO of Intel since Andy Grove, who wasn't COO first. Now, Krzanich has been in the process management end of this stuff. He's been an engineer, he's been a manufacturing manager, a plant manager, head of assembly testing, in charge of the supply chain. What does this mean? Well, most people think this means Intel has decided not to go outside the company, obviously, and they want to stay a fab. They want to stay a manufacturer, and they're not going to significantly change their strategy. Problem is, their big challenges right now are getting chips into mobile, which is dominated by ARM-based designs, doing their TV product that everyone's anticipating end of this year, and turn around that 25% profit decline that they had last quarter. Let's start with you, Mike. Do you think this is the right man for Intel's future? Because it does seem like more of the same.
If they want to continue with the same strategy, they've got the right guy. You know, a guy who's been at the company for many, many years and has been in every position, practically from the bottom to the top. He's perfect. Nobody knows Intel better than this man right now. But I agree, Tom, that there is an issue where, I mean, Intel can carry on making money for some time, but 5, 10, 15 years, if they don't start to really dominate mobile in a big way, they're going to be in some hot water.
And when I look at the Haswell chip, we'll probably see all the details of that coming out of Computex in June. But it looks impressive. It looks amazing. And they're saying it's so power efficient, it could be used in tablets. I asked, do you think that Intel can just hold out and their x86 chips will help them in mobile and they don't have to worry so much about Atom?
I think that's what Intel wants to believe itself, and the fact that they've promoted somebody from within probably is going to keep that line of thinking at Intel. I don't think Intel necessarily needs to worry as long as they can line up partners. When they lined up Motorola, I was surprised that you would see Intel in an Android phone, but that phone hasn't done it hasn't done huge numbers or anything, and Motorola doesn't really push that very heavily. And Intel's gotten pretty cozy with Google, so if they can work that partnership so they can be in more mobile devices, maybe even power like a Nexus one day, that could be a big deal. But Intel is doing what they have been doing for years. They have licensed ARM in the past, and it doesn't really do a whole lot for them. They want to control everything in the architecture. There's really no reason for them to change things. Because even when they had a challenger, AMD showed up, they were really kicking Intel's butt, and then Intel just rose again. So I'm thinking Intel will figure this out.
Intel's going to just figure it out. They stay with the same strategy. Krzanich is the right man. Stick with that. Does that sound good to you, Sarah?
I agree with Mike that Krzanich is probably just makes a lot more sense than anybody else that they could have chosen in order to assure a smooth transition. Didn't Intel just buy Mashery, which is an API software company? I think they did a couple of weeks ago. Actually, I know they did because I know somebody who works at Mashery. And, so that's sort of interesting to me. It sounds like, there's probably more to it than just, okay, we're replacing the top guy. It's a bit of a strategy, not a strategy shift, but a strategy Expansion. Thank you.
Doubling down.
Yeah.
So in the headlines.
Yeah, I think this is going to be exactly an interesting year for Intel.
I think this is probably a smart move. I think Intel could have screwed it up by going outside the company and getting the wrong person that took them in a lot of interesting directions, but abandoned the core. Remember, Intel is still very successful, and they need to have that core business continue to be extremely successful. And Haswell, I think, is going to blow the socks off people when it comes out. I was reading the Ars Technica article about it today, and it is very well engineered. It is very power efficient. It is the first really good use of the 22-nanometer process that Intel has made. That is important, and you need someone who knows how to handle that manufacturing process while allowing Intel to experiment in all these other areas we're talking about. So Krzanich, for now, probably the right guy for the job. Maybe the next guy after Kersanich or lady after Kersanich would be someone else. And in fact, we should mention that a new president is being named as well by the board. Renee James takes over as president of Intel on May 16th. Let's talk about YouTube saying, forget TV advertisers. You don't want TV. TV's for old people. Advertise with us because we got the stars of tomorrow.
Yes, YouTube held that event trying to get advertisers at YouTube. And Peter Kafka saying that YouTube's trying something different, saying, as Sarah mentioned, that YouTube is better than TV because they're watching it on YouTube. No emphasis on funded channels this year. No testimonials from traditional producers, directors, or actors. The big push was saying YouTube gets 1 billion viewers a month. And what they did this time at this upfront is that they brought YouTube's homegrown talent, and they did a bunch of speeches and clips. Producer Brian Robbins talked about how his teenage sons don't watch TV, they watch YouTube. Brian Robbins just sold his Awesomeness TV YouTube channel to DreamWorks. Also, that's a really cool name for a network. YouTube spent a little time talking to advertisers about how it will sell ads, but they are still not going to do the TV model. Mike, Yahoo and AOL are bringing Hollywood stars to bring in advertisers. You got Ed Helms showing up. You've got Sarah Jessica Parker working with these companies. Is YouTube big enough to promote its homegrown stars to attract advertisers?
I think it's what they should be doing. I mean, we had all the channel stuff that YouTube did last year, which obviously this is sort of the anniversary of. And it seems like some of the channels by people like Shaquille O'Neal and people like didn't really work so well. But then you've got great stuff coming out of Geek and Sundry and The Nerdist, and that's what YouTube should be promoting. There's this great community of people there that create things that other people like to watch. And I don't want another TV in my computer, on YouTube, on the internet. Give me something different, and that's what I love about YouTube, and that there's this great community there of different content that is more niche. Look at Tom's beautiful face there, and Veronica.
There's a canceled show from Geek and Sundry right there.
But still, it was fun.
Interesting.
Sarah, they're promoting 1 billion viewers a month. Does YouTube have to bend to traditional ads if it wants to get bigger than 1 billion? 1 billion seems pretty big.
Well, I mean, traditional ads are still the way that YouTube can make a lot of money, right? So they want those advertisers that have a finite amount of money, that have thrown quite a bit of money at traditional TV programs over the past, since TV was invented. But I do think that it's the right strategy not to say, hey, look, we've got those same stars that you're already familiar with on TV, because it doesn't help anybody who has a choice between watching NBC and watching YouTube for an hour decide to choose YouTube, because it's sort of more of the same, but it's maybe a little bit more of that complicated method. Like, oh, so it's like TV, but I have to watch it on my computer? I'd rather just watch TV. With programming that YouTube can say, this is original stuff. You can't get it anywhere else. This is quality programming. Yeah, you can choose stuff on Yahoo or AOL or Netflix or Amazon, but actually these are where the big stars are. And in many cases, they're right. That's the right strategy.
Tom, what do you make of this big shift from last year's message and this year's message from YouTube?
It's not a shift at all, actually. And two disclosures. One, I made the crack about the canceled show because we were on the video version. We were showing a picture of Sword and Laser. And one of the reasons that it didn't work out for Sword and Laser, Geek and Sundry, and I love those guys, by the way. Geek and Sundry is still doing excellent stuff. Go watch Tabletop. Great channel. But we're an older skewing video show. And what YouTube was saying in this event here is we've got the 18 to 34-year-old market. And my wife, the other disclosure, works at YouTube at the creator space, where they're attempting to raise the quality of YouTube videos by allowing their YouTube partners to come in and use this amazing equipment. So to me, this is an extension of YouTube's message, which has been, we want to improve the product. From the acquisition of Next New Networks to the creation of the creator space in London, and now they've got one in LA, there's one coming in New York, there's one coming in Tokyo. They're saying we're raising the bar. And obviously before they weren't going to push that message to advertisers, right? But now they can. Now they must feel, I don't know this for sure, but it looks like they feel like we finally got that content level pushed up enough and it's going in the right direction that we can tell advertisers, hey, check out what we're doing. We've got some amazing stuff.
I like the idea that YouTube keeps pushing back when it comes to advertising. I like the traditional models. Obviously, it's owned by Google, and Google likes to kind of mess with the established order. So I like the idea of YouTube not necessarily going with the television style model of advertising buys. I think they are large enough that they can handle this for now, but if enough content producers leave YouTube, or if enough content producers are moving to AOL being bought by Yahoo, that could be trouble for YouTube in the long run. But right now, I think they're pretty secure.
All right, let's take a quick break. Thank our sponsor, Gazelle. You want some quick cash for new gadgets? Let me tell you, the easiest way you're going to find to do it is Gazelle.com. If you want the new Samsung Galaxy S4, if you want the HTC One or even an iPhone 5, before you upgrade, make sure you check out what your old gadget is worth on Gazelle and get some cash in your pocket. The best part about Gazelle is it's easy. You go to Gazelle.com, Gazelle.com, find your item, tell them the condition, and be honest, they're going to check it. Plus, they also buy broken iPhones and iPads. So get a risk-free offer for your gadgets and then lock it in for 30 days. That's why I'm telling you to do it right now. Even if you're not sure you're going to buy a new gadget, even if you're not sure you want to sell the old one, if you lock it in now, you've got 30 days to make that decision. You've got 30 days to get that new gadget, and your gadget's probably not going to be more valuable 30 days from now. So why not do it right now? Lock in that quote. You've got 30 days to deal with it. But they won't wait. Once you send them the gadget, they'll turn it around within a couple of days, and you'll get paid by check or PayPal or even an Amazon gift card. And that gets you a 5% bonus if you do it that way. What's your iPhone, your Samsung, or your other Android smartphone worth? Take a minute, go to Gazelle.com and find out. Sell your used Samsung Galaxy or iPhone today at Gazelle.com. Tell them Tech News Today sent you. We thank them for their very excellent support of Tech News Today. All right, back to you again, Ayaz, because EA Sports just knifed the tendons out of the ankles of the Nintendo Wii U.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know about this, but Electronic Arts Sports, they confirmed with Nintendo World that EA is not going to release Madden NFL 25 on the Wii U this year in 2013. The rep at EA said that EA has a strong partnership with Nintendo and will continue to evaluate opportunities for delivering additional Madden NFL products for Nintendo fans in the future. In other words, PR speak, things are fine. Meanwhile, Nintendo just spammed all of its Wii users with a new message. When you turn on your Wii console, in the bottom right, you'll see a little message glowing. It has a message from Nintendo that says, "Did you know that you can play nearly all of your existing Wii games on the Wii U?" It goes on to say the Wii U is an all-new home console from Nintendo. It's not just an upgrade. It's an entirely new system that will change the way you and your family experience games and entertainment. Mike, is the Wii U on a death watch at this point?
By the looks of it, Nintendo is. I mean, that's such a desperate move. And I sort of, there's a video on one of the links that was in the doc where it just is just this really, like, just like a letter. It just looks like a mail that comes into the Nintendo mailbox. Just this big string of text telling you about how great the Wii U is. It's on the video now. They're playing it on the video. And it just feels to me like Nintendo, especially the Wii U, is just like circling the drain now. I'm really worried about them.
Tom, there was a mention in the article at The Verge saying that EA, the last time they pulled away support from a console, a major console, was the Dreamcast. And we all know what happened to the Dreamcast. Is this a beginning of a deteriorating relationship with EA and Nintendo?
Man, I don't want to say that. And maybe I'm just in denial. But EA is definitely rushing to say they have a strong partnership with Nintendo. They'll continue to evaluate opportunities. This is EA making a difficult decision for EA. That doesn't sound like a company that's having a bad relationship with Nintendo, but it certainly is not a good sign for the Wii U. And with consoles intended to last about 10 years, at this point, Nintendo's going to have to come up with a pretty desperate move to keep this thing alive if they want it to be the cash cow. I don't know if it was a cash cow, but the Nintendo Wii was successful, and it kept the Nintendo brand healthy. In fact, it led the way the first few years in sales. This is almost an entire 180 for Nintendo, and I'm concerned for them. I'm worried.
So what do you make of this spam kind of concept? They're telling people the Wii U is something different. It's another console. This is just a branding issue because there's the Wii and the Wii U, and people aren't figuring this is a different machine?
Well, but they're not really pointing out that the Wii U is different and interesting. They're pointing out the fact that if you already have a Wii and you already have games that you play on your Wii, then for some reason you should feel that you have to buy a Wii U. So that, I mean, not only is it desperate, but it doesn't make a lot of sense.
In the letter that
you're like, but my life is fine. I like to play my Wii. Can I just disregard this message, please?
The message also goes on to talk about the second screen you get to use, but you're right. There doesn't seem to be a huge compelling reason to move to this. And the weird thing is, I think for a sports game like Madden, this would be a perfect use of that controller to draw a play of your own right on the device. And Nintendo is missing that opportunity. I'm sure there's another company that's going to take advantage of this. But it just seems like if EA, which seems like it'll put games out on anything, isn't putting it out on the Wii U, that's not good. Because Madden just makes them tons of money no matter what they do. It's Madden. How would they pull away from the Wii U? Just means that this thing just doesn't seem to have legs.
It's like Nintendo is grasping, like fingernails, like on the Wii U, like, please, no, we will not let go of the Wii U. But they probably should, scrap it, move on. But that's really not the way Nintendo's been behaving for a while.
So costly at this point.
I know.
That's why they're grasping it so hard. Is they can't afford to do that yet.
I just think the branding wasn't excellent for the Wii U. I mean, it's the same name, right? The Wii, which makes it seem like it's just the same console, and all Nintendo is showing is the controller. It's like in all of the imagery, and even when it was first demoed, it weren't even really clear if there was another box that it ran with. It just kind of, I guess to the average consumer, it's like the Wii U is a controller you buy for these new games. Well, why would you buy that?
Maybe that's why people are so freaked out about not seeing the PS4, because if it looks like the PS3, people won't think to buy it. The Wii U kind of looks like the Wii, except it's a little larger. So maybe there is a real draw to the design of the actual box as well, because as Mike mentioned, when you see the ads, you just see the controller. In the background is either a black or white little slab, and you don't even notice it as a new console.
Well, I don't think that's it. I think it's the fact that the Wii U's features aren't any different other than that. That is the only big new feature for the Wii is that handheld thing. The box itself actually doesn't look that much like the Wii if you put them side by side, but there's nothing else to say about the Wii U, design or otherwise. I think that's probably the biggest problem. We warned you that we were going to be talking about Apple a lot more as we get closer and closer to WWDC. What is the latest, Sarah?
I'm grasping at rumors. I will not let go of the rumors. I will single-handedly take us into the WWDC. More sources are telling All Things D that iOS 7 is radically different enough for Apple to be needing quite a few more engineers to be working on it in order to get a preview out by WWDC time, which of course is the event where everyone's expecting to see the bells and whistles of iOS 7 and how different it looks. Apparently, Apple is borrowing engineers from the OS 10.9 team as part of an effort to get iOS 7 out the door on time. Now, that's not the first time that Apple's done this, so that's not totally crazy. Back in 2007, there was an iPhone Leopard, OS 10 Leopard scenario where engineers were pulled off of OS 10 10.5 to work on the iPhone. And back then, that's 5 years ago now, it was a big deal. Can Apple handle it? Do they not have enough, manpower to work on two different operating systems? But sources, again, say that because of this, nobody should really panic that iOS 7 is going to not ship on time, that it should. One source for everybody who is not totally crazy about skeuomorphism, I love that photo, says, quote, Game Center's green felt craps table? Well, goodbye, circus. Now, I, for one, welcome our flattening Game Center overlords, because that is probably one of the worst examples of trying to turn an app into something that you would see at a casino. I mean, it's really ugly. It also doesn't work that well, so maybe Apple has more to worry about in that front. But Renee Ritchie over at iMore, who also is a host on MacBreak Weekly, I think he had a really, really great quote. It's sort of just rounding out all of these rumors. And he says, listen, until Apple announces something, which they haven't, nothing can be delayed. If they're not meeting internal schedules, they're adding resources from other projects. Right. If they're pushing features out to future versions, if they're doing any number of things a company their size does when working on a project of iOS's size, that's not delayed, that's development, which I think is probably the most reasonable thing I've heard in quite a while. And people don't want to hear that, right? You want to hear Apple's rushing, it's a frenzy, they're freaking out. I'm just not sure that that's the case internally. Mike, what do you make of iOS 7 and meeting deadlines and if Apple can pull it off?
Well, I'm looking forward to potentially a new design. I mean, we've had very similar design of iOS since it was first announced back in 2007. So I look forward to seeing some changes there. But the idea, I think that yesterday and days prior, we were starting to see a lot of rumors. Oh, iOS is going to be late. It's going to be late. And this All Things D story feels to me like a controlled leak from Apple, where they're like, yeah, we are moving engineers, but this time we're going to be on time. Because we were thinking about last time where they were late when they were moving engineers. But they're saying, no, it's all good, don't worry. And I think that's the difference this time, is that Apple was still saying, it's all good, nothing to worry about.
Obviously, Apple wants to seem like they've got it all under control. Do you find this to be a good sign? If engineers are being pulled from other areas of Apple to make sure that iOS 7 not only ships on time, but ships in its finalized version. Are you excited that it's really going to be radically different because it takes so many people to do so?
I don't know if the amount of engineers makes a difference to me, as long as the product's really good. The thing is, when it comes to Apple, iOS is their bread and butter. This is where they're making all their money. iPads, iPhones. Mac OS 10 is not a huge leader when it comes to market share. I think combined, it's got something like 5 or 6%. It's not a huge moneymaker for Apple, so why would they bother? And the fact is, with the new restructuring of Apple, the operating system teams are working together much closer than they ever have been. Plus, there are a lot of features from iOS that are coming into OS 10 and the reverse. So I'm thinking that while there seems to be like there's blood in the water, the iMac delays seemed like that was an issue. The Maps issue, where it was not ready when it came out, Apple doesn't want to come out with a product that isn't ready. And if they need to pull every engineer to make sure iOS 7 is a big hit out of the gate, that's what they have to do, because they can't withstand another hit. And I think this is just what Apple needs to do if they want to be competitive in the very, very competitive smartphone game.
Tell you what, when I see the next iOS 7 rumor story on Tech Meme or
That'll
Google
be later
News
today.
Tomorrow, I will throw up a little in my mouth.
Oh, okay.
That will not be live streamed.
Sheesh.
Unless we find out.
Let's finish up our discussion section with the Gartner study by David Wills, saying that by 2017, half of worldwide companies will enact bring your own device. That's the idea that they don't give you a computer or a laptop. They'll just let you bring your own. This is usually related to smartphones, right? I've got a smartphone. A lot of people have mobile phones these days. And so I just want to use the mobile phone I already have. And the company will sometimes compensate you by paying your bill, but you get to use your own gear. And that's an interesting thing. 15% of companies say they'll never move to bringing your own device, but it looks like it's going to become common. And IT support, licenses, et cetera, cost about $100 per worker to support BYOD. That's expected to rise to $300 by 2016, but that's still cheaper than providing the devices, which is about $600 per worker. Yet, only about half of bring your own device programs reimburse you, and only 2% cover all the costs. So do we as employees like this trend of providing our own equipment, especially if we're going to have to be footing the bill for some of it? Mike, what do you think?
I work for a pretty large corporation, a big finance company, and I hope and pray for the day that I can be in a BYOD program. And I don't care if they don't pay me any money. I just don't want to use Windows 7 and a BlackBerry anymore. I would like to use my Android phone and my MacBook Pro, and I would be a very, very happy man. They can give me whatever apps they want me to use on them, that's fine. But just so I'm not under the crazy restrictions that they set on what I can and can't download, and just so I can use tools that I'm familiar with. I would love to have Text Expander on my work machine, but cannot install it, and it would make me work faster, but they won't allow it. So I look forward to the day where I can bring devices in. And I think that by the time that this stuff is becoming more commonplace, so when is it, by 2017, I don't think it'll be a problem that many people will have to have devices provided for them to participate in a program like this.
And that's the thing. Usually the concern has been letting people have their own equipment meant insecurity, but as security management, enterprise management software, cloud management, virtualization, all of that has gotten better, it's become more possible to allow devices to be secure and still be under the management of an individual. Ayaz, do you think that's risky, though?
I don't know. I'm kind of curious if people will be more secure because it's their own machine. They're not worried about, oh, if I screw up this machine, it's not mine. Let somebody else handle it. So maybe that will change some behavior. But since everything, for the most part, a lot of people think the use of a computer is open up a browser and start using whatever services my company has set up, I think it'll just be fine for the bottom line of the company. So if they don't have to pay for these machines or service them or anything, it doesn't seem like it's going to change behavior tremendously. So I'm just kind of iffy on the concept of this, just because I don't want to pay for my own laptops.
Right, you're screwed on the financial end of it, but then you get the flexibility of saying, well, this is my machine. I can do whatever I want with it. Sarah, which one's better?
Well, okay, so I'm using my machine on the show right now, and that's fine because if I ever parted ways with Twitter or anybody parted ways with whatever company, I walk away with my own machine and I don't have to worry about it. However, the flip side of that is the bulk of what I do on this machine is work related. So, there's wear and tear associated with whatever computer you're using, and this laptop barely works anymore. So there's that too. So what's more important? As Mike said, you just want the flexibility to use the stuff that you want to use because that's what you prefer, and you don't care if anybody pays you, or do you like the idea of getting some money because you are putting so much work into your business with your own machine?
Yeah, I did, and it's funny that you say that because who was it here in the chat room? UOSDWIS said, next up, bring your own salary. There has got to be a limit to it, exactly. I have always used my own equipment because of what you just said, Sarah. I can then, when I left CNET, I took my laptop with me. CNET didn't mind because all of the stuff that I had access to on that laptop, they shut off. Right? It was in the cloud. It was managed that way. There was no security problem on their end. I got to keep my data. Everybody was happy. Problem is, I was also willing to maintain that laptop myself and not require the IT department to maintain it. Most people aren't going to do that in most workplaces. So it's a little thornier issue on that end of things. Let's move on to the randomizer. This was on our subreddit, and it caught my eye. It actually didn't have all that many votes, but Spritzy drink machine is a new Kickstarter funded dealie that's kind of like the Soda Stream, except instead of filling a bottle with water that you then carbonate, it works like the Keurig coffee machines. You put your glass underneath and a little cartridge, and it actually carbonates the water as it comes out and mixes a fresh soda for you.
So mechanized soda jerks?
Wow, that's cool.
Well, it's not even just that it's mechanized. It's like soda at the push of a button.
Oh, I just wanted to say the phrase.
Totally fresh. You just wanted to say jerks. Okay.
Oh, I want to say mechanized soda jerks. But this is kind of neat because of the idea of making those things with SodaStream. I think you have to make a large batch at a time, which is what people don't want to do anymore, it seems like.
Right, exactly.
So if you want to do this and have fresh carbonated soda, this makes a lot of sense. So this is a Kickstarter?
Yeah, the Spritzy is a they're raising funds on Kickstarter for the drink machine. Mike, do you drink a lot of soda? Because I don't drink a lot of soda, but I'm still fascinated by this.
I do drink a bit, mainly sort of sugar-free stuff, so I don't weigh 2,000 pounds. But the problem with all of these sorts of things is you end up with these proprietary systems, and if no stores carry what you need for the Spritzy anymore, then you've kind of wasted your money.
Yeah, I know. That's why I don't like the Keurig system, even though it's so convenient. The times that I've used it, like in hotel rooms and stuff, it's great. But I always worry that, I'm not going to be able to get the pods anymore. And then what I do, there's always like the companies, kind of like inkjet cartridges, where they sell you the make your own pods, where you can put your own coffee in them. But I bet they get sued for some kind of patent violation or something. We're going to have drink machine patent wars soon.
You could print your own 3D cartridge to fill up things. You'll be all fine.
There you go.
Until you run out of ink for your 3D printer, which would be a problem.
All right, let's see what's on the calendar. Not much, I know.
Yeah, the rest of the week is kind of slow, but we do have a birthday to celebrate. The Microsoft mouse has turned 30. Back in 1983, Microsoft announced the 2-button Microsoft mouse, built for IBM computers, and not really for left-handers. It was started this way, and meant to be used with the new Microsoft Word processor. This is an interesting fact. Only 5,000 sold of the 10,000 made. It was a concept that was before its time.
It was not an auspicious start, was it? But
No.
they still make Microsoft.
Microsoft
I've
making
got Microsoft
hardware.
mouse.
That's silly. Microsoft doesn't make hardware.
This is its descendant. They've made hardware for 30 years. Can you
Let's
believe
get
that?
Microsoft Mouse some cake today to celebrate.
Happy birthday,
Cheesecake?
birthday,
mouse.
little mouse.
Cheesecake?
Sure, I think mice like cheesecakes.
That would be very stereotypical of them.
Yes.
Let's see what's incoming.
Incoming message.
We got a message from Matt. He says, "Hi, guys. I'm a recent subscriber and instant fan of the show. Thanks. After hearing about Retwacked, I feel it's unlikely to work well without backing from Twitter. If Twitter were to act on the problem Retwacked tries to address, I think creating support for versioning tweets could have some very interesting applications. Existing tweets could be edited in place, and retweeters could be given the choice to let updates flow through or stick to a specific version. Versioning of tweets would actually give Twitter a whole other dimension of creative possibilities. Yours in stitches and informed, Matt." Mike, have you been following Retwacked?
Not too much. I know it's some sort of editing system. But I just think it's the worst name. It's just a terrible.
It's hard
name.
to say.
Retwacked. I don't like it. It's not great. It's just.
It's all about branding.
Got another email from Alan who references yesterday's show about merging Chrome and Android and says, perhaps Sarah hit upon it tangentially, and this conversation about Chrome and Android merging is really more branding. Samsung looks to be seriously considering forking Android in much the same way that Amazon has to capitalize on their market position in handsets. HTC is also dipping its toe in the water in much the same way with the Facebook OS, as well as their own in-house skin of the OS. Meanwhile, Google has the dual problems of a sinking Motorola Albatross and the possibility that vanilla Android and or lightly skinned versions of the OS are also going to be left on also ran handsets. Perhaps Google rebrands Motorola as the Nexus Chrome, a premium version of Android, and hopes we get into the habit of referring to its flagship skin as the Chrome OS. Think Toyota versus Lexus. Interesting.
Is Chrome OS the Lexus of Google operating systems?
What's
Well, the
shiny?
Pixel certainly cost enough.
Oh, maybe the Pixel line is the fancy line of these
Yeah.
things then.
Well, that wraps it up for us. Mike Hurley, thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations on joining 5x5. Let folks know what's going on. Is all of the 76 decibels stuff over there now?
Yeah, all of the 70 decibel shows, they're on their way.
Did I say 76 decibels? I'm sorry.
Yeah. I just assumed you were saying I had 76 shows, which is nearly accurate. We're in the process of moving things over. We're doing it sort of show by show because technically it's not as simple as we thought it was going to be. My interview show that Tom has been on, Command Space, is at 5x5. It's the first one, and it's at 5x5.tv/CMD space, SPACE.
Check it out. And Mike, always great to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us, man.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you, folks, for submitting to our subreddit, technewstoday.reddit.com. It's a place where you can vote on stories submitted by other listeners or submit your own stories to be voted upon. We always look at that. It's not like we just copy it over, but we look at that to find out, okay, what are you guys interested? What are you guys doing? That's where I got that Mashable story about the Kickstarter Spritzy thing today. So thanks, everybody, for participating in there. You can find us on the web, twit.tv/TNT. That has links to all of the pertinent information about the show, like our email address, tnt@twit.tv, or our phone number, 260-TNT-SHOW. We will be back tomorrow because it's Friday, and Darren Kitchen will be with us. See you then.